All my life, I've had a passion for big pike. I've chased them from Labrador all the way to Russia. And I've been fortunate enough to stumble into some pretty good-sized ones over the years. The most amazing pike water I've seen is in Alaska's Yukon drainage. A trip there 2 years ago yielded some phenomenal fish, even though we were handicapped in having to fish off of an airplane or from shore. But just this spring, an old friend of mine named Boone, well actually his pilot's license says Dean Nelson, and his partner Leon Randerman have navigated a shallow draft houseboat with bass trackers in tow to the remote region where only float planes have been before. After rigging my boat with a temperature sensor, Leon and I head off. We threw every lure imaginable in the bays and channels adjacent to where the houseboat was parked, but encountered only scattered pods of small fish. We're just not in the zone. It's time to make a major move further down the river system.
Let's go right up here. Let's just go right directly to where we really ought to go. We'll go right here and do that, and then on the way back we'll do that, and then we'll go if we're late for something.
Our location change closer to the river's main stem produced a pike who'd been recently feeding on she-fish, a good sign. Be sure to join us next week for Monster Alaskan Pike. Last week, pike raconteur Leon Randerman and I had just hooked into big pike when we had to leave you. After landing our respective pike, Leon and I returned to the houseboat and made plans to move the next day. The beauty of the houseboat concept is the mobility. Not only does it let you stay with the pike, but it prevents you from burning out the area like a permanent style lodge eventually does. The next morning we returned to our evening spot, armed with all kinds of stuff. I went to a jig and pig and stroked the area where I knew they had to be laying. As you may recall, I've stumbled into the land of giant pike and have been clobbering 4-footers plus on lures. I just happened to have a fly rod and a few flies along. As is the norm in Alaska, just when you think things are really going your way, it starts raining. We decide to return to the houseboat for a few hours rest. Our fears have been realized. We've had rotten weather, cooling weather, so the fish have moved out a little bit deeper and they're not up on the shallow flat, so it's going to be a lot harder to find them. They're a lot more neutral to negative, so we're using sinking lines and first strip splies that are a little smaller than the big loud stuff we used earlier. This is what we're calling small to average up here.
As is often the case with big pike in the far north, late afternoons warming water greatly increased their level of activity. I went back to the mega diver on a floating fly line hoping to chug up a monster.
You want to catch the biggest pike you've ever caught in your life? Like I told you last week, come to Alaska, give my buddy Boone a call, and he will get you into something that looks more like an alligator than a northern. Nice girth.
Pretty fish.
Beautiful configuration. Well, if you're a regular viewer, I guess I can say here we are again. And no, I don't mean here we are again on pike. I mean here I am again in Alaska, fishing with my friend Boone, alias Dean Nelson, 20-pounder, and he's built like a brick. When I was here before, it was June, and now, in a day, it's going to be September 1st. Wow, how time flies. You saw the diameter of that fish. Well, one of the reasons is this is one of the few places in the whole world that I know of where pike have an opportunity to intersect with pink salmon, which they did, what, about 2 weeks ago? And they tend to put on weight.
But 2 weeks is a long time by standards of the far north, and the pike seem to have scattered from everywhere except the small Oxbow Lake off the main channel of the river near where the houseboat is parked. We cruise and fish a 20-mile radius before determining that cold nighttime temps have produced a situation that makes morning fishing tough. And after blanking in a key area with traditional lures, I go to a neutrally buoyant soft plastic.
Now, what the real genius here isn't particularly this bait. It's the way the bait is hooked up, where it's allowed to free swing on here, and it's got total random action, and then it's almost neutrally buoyant. It has almost no weight or resistance. That's the deal.
They like this, there's no doubt about it. Work up through here without catching anything, come back through with the right lure.
It proves we had fished through dozens of pike, nice ones, but no monsters. We return to the houseboat so Boone can run an errand in his plane. Even though it's 9 p.m., there's plenty of light, and I return alone to our old faithful Oxbow.
Well, I've tried everything in the book, and these fish are acting awfully weird, but the water temps are up to 62, and it's such a nice night, I'm going to throw top water, regardless if it's fall. Whoa.
In the last episode, you left me in Alaska, where I just caught a 30-pound pike as my host Boone left on an errand in his airplane. Even more ironic, on the very next cast, I hooked an even bigger fish.
Amateur at this fish. Look at the back.
Well after midnight, I returned to the houseboat. Then arise early the next morning to scout with Boone from the plane. Pink salmon have passed through this area 2 weeks ago, and the big pike have since scattered. We're determined to find more spots with fish in addition to our old standby oxbow near the houseboat. From the air, it's obvious the water is rising, and we decide to skip from spot to spot with the plane, starting out at a point almost 100 miles upstream. We fished dozens of spots with mixed results. On the way home, during a low pass over the mouth of one of the larger sloughs, the airplane arouses numerous large surface boils. Even though it's a gamble, I vote we make a long run back to this area with the boat tomorrow.
We're back, and this time we brought a boat. We left this area last night with an airplane, and we've driven about an hour from the houseboat. There's a lot of big pike here. The question is whether we can get them to bite in this cool morning. Anyway, is to take this size, I think it's a size 11, or you can use a size 13 floating saltwater Rapala, and put 5/0 heavy-duty hooks on it. And what it does is gives you a bait that isn't totally neutrally buoyant, but it's close. And it's just got a little more triggering power than a regular wrap. And it's built heavy enough that it'll take big fish. Hook up.